This is Old Line Farmer Radio, a Maryland Farm Bureau production, helping you achieve your best farm future.
Hello and welcome to Old Line Farmer Radio. My name is Kara Hutchison, Regional Field Manager at Maryland Farm Bureau, and I'm your host this week. It's currently April 24th, and the estimated average price of soybeans is $9.53 per bushel, and the estimated average price of corn in Maryland is $4.87 per bushel, a slight drop from last week. Let's check out a couple of headlines from this week. An update on the Maryland Piedmont Reliability Project. Maryland Farm Bureau has hired legal representation, and we have filed a petition to intervene with the Public Service Commission. If approved, it would allow the Farm Bureau to participate in the proceedings. On the advice of our council, we are urging farmers in the line's path to avoid signing any documents or entering into agreements with the PSEG until the Certificate of Public Necessity process is complete. It's been 2 months since the USDA announced their 5-point plan to bring down the rising cost of eggs. USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins recently joined Good Morning America to discuss the progress made on this effort.
From the day we released the plan in early February, the price of eggs, of wholesale eggs, is down 56%. So that's about $8.30 per dozen-ish, down to about a $3.50 ish per dozen eggs. So we're seeing a great trend. The retail prices will soon catch up. They're already caught up in a lot of the parts of the country, but we continue to focus on making groceries affordable.
As you may have heard last week, we are calling on Governor Wes Moore to veto Senate Bill 931 and House Bill 1036 for its possibility to take prime farmland out of production. Since last week, we've had over 200 messages sent to Governor Moore in opposition of this short-sighted bill. If you haven't done so already, visit mdfarmburo.com/action-center to write Governor Moore about this bill. Thank you to everyone who has already written in. Strawberries are one of the first crops to be harvested in Maryland each spring, and it presents a great opportunity for Marylanders to support direct-to-consumer farm operations. Jeb Burchick speaks with Bob Chase of Davidsonville on his popular Anne Arundel County roadside farm business.
Old Line Farmer Radio, I'm Jeb Burchick, and I am here with Mr. Bob Chase of Chase's Produce right here in Davidsonville. It's about 5 to 10 minutes from our Davidsonville office, and Mr. Chase is known for these wonderful, wonderful strawberries. It's one of the first spring crops that you can get in Maryland. And so, Mr. Chase, what are you doing in the wintertime to make sure that you have these strawberries ready here in early May?
Well, first off, in September is when we plant these berries. We lay the plastic. Most people now grow strawberries on plastic rather than the old matted row where you grow them in the dirt. And these are a one-year berry. Anytime you see strawberries on plastic, they're 1 year. You plant them in September, you pick them in May, 1st of June, and then you plow them up and plant them again next September. We had a frost about 2 weeks ago, and all these plants have rebloomed because I lost all the first blooms. There are some people in the state that are picking some Sweet Charlies, the variety Sweet Charlie. They're an earlier berry than these, but I won't have berries probably for 2 weeks or more. The East Coast has had a terrible disease problem called neopestilosis, or neop, this year. It's the whole East Coast, it's just not me here. And there's really nothing, a fungicide you can really spray that'll control it. You took these plants this year and planted them with the condition, you're buying them at your own risk, because the disease was in the plants. They come out of Canada. They had a bad outbreak in Canada. It was a buy at your own risk. I thought about not planting any, but I thought, well, you know, maybe I'm above, maybe I can get it by, but we're not too bad. I have seen some fellows and talked to fellows that have tremendous lost half their plants. I'm hoping it's better than that, but you know, we shall see.
Yeah, let that be a reminder to our viewers, you know, be sympathetic to your strawberry farmers, because yeah, that's tough. It's nothing that you guys are doing. It's just kind of happening. So
and you get about a month. I usually say from the 1st of May to the 1st of June is when we pick strawberries.
Yeah.
give or take a little bit, a week or two either way because of the weather. But yes, the local farmer has a fresher berry. I mean, we are 100% pick your own. So, you come out and you pick them, and you can't get any fresher than that.
Right. Yeah, and that brings me to my next point. People always ask, how do they want to support their local farmers? And by all means, there's a lot of importance in that wholesale market, and our grain farmers that are making the grain to feed the chickens. All that supply chain is important, but if you want to get direct to the farmer, what better way than go meet Mr. Bob here and walk through these fields? What do you think about that?
Yes, whether it be strawberries or produce, we've raised produce all my life and sold it along the highway. It's just a much fresher product. Years ago, there wasn't so much competition. Now, I got stores and other produce stands everywhere, but it's a much fresher product, and that's what people used to buy from us so much. They say, oh, I got some down the road, so-and-so, or at the store, and good God, the corn was terrible. Well, it's been picked at least a week,
Right.
It makes a big difference, and you're helping the local economy, the local farmer. I mean, times are tough. Everybody thinks we make about $1 million a year out here, and it's nothing, nowhere near that. It's just, a lot of farmers that I know that might be watching this know that any of them deal with the public. They know exactly what I'm thinking. They say, oh, you see a farm, you're a millionaire, you got a tractor, you got this, you got that. You got to be a multi-millionaire, and it's far from the truth.
Right.
It's just good for the local economy. And you get during COVID, we had them lined up to pick strawberries and produce because the store shelves, I don't want to say were empty, but they were a little skimpy in some of these stores.
Yeah.
And people just wanted to get out and come pick strawberries just to get out the house. They had to wear their mask and wash their hands and everything, and it carried on.
Yeah.
But now that has kind of died a little bit because the restaurants opened back up because a lot of people don't like to cook anymore.
Yeah. Well, what better way to get your fresh ingredients for a strawberry pie than right here in Davidsonville? I know that you and your wife are longtime members of Maryland Farm Bureau. What's the benefit of an organization like Farm Bureau to farm businesses like yours, where you're doing a lot of direct to consumer sales?
Well, the biggest thing is I'm out here doing my thing. I'm not in Annapolis or DC. With the government officials, legislature that are trying to come up with these sometimes ridiculous laws and rules, and because most of them don't have any comprehension of what they're, what it involves, what they actually are doing, or the cost of implementing some of these things.
Yeah.
I mean, some things can put you out of business quick.
Yeah.
I mean, the profit margin is kind of skimpy out here. The biggest thing for me is representation in Annapolis and MDA, keeping their eye on what's good or bad for the farmers, and working for us in that respect, because things are always changing. And now with the turmoil in DC, we don't know what's coming down the pike,
Right.
DC or locally. There's a lot of things. I've been a member for many, many years. I'm guessing about 50 years, I'm guessing.
Wow.
And I did sit on the state board for a few years and served 2 or 3 different presidents. That was when we used to meet in the old Randallstown location. Now we're down here in Davidsonville.
Yeah.
It used to take us, during rush hour, take us an hour to get up there. Now, I was off the board by the time we got it down here, but it's 5 minutes from my house now.
Right. A lot more convenient, and we're a lot closer to a lot of good farmers here. Not that there's anything wrong with Randallstown, but we love it down here in Davidsonville. I guess last question, you talked about the money. There's a lot of misconceptions about farming. We often use the term land rich, cash poor a lot. Yeah, you're right. Farmers aren't making a lot of money, but you do this because there's a passion and a joy into it. So last question, where does your joy come from when you're out here in these fields? Well,
That's true. You got to like what you do. You got to love what you do. And I used to tell people when I was in my 20s, I didn't care if I made any money as long as I had enough food to eat and a place live or some kind of house somewhere, I'd farm for free. But as I gotten older and found out that that didn't really, work out very well, I used to not think this was work. I used to jump out of bed and go to work and not think about it. Now I lay there and think about what does and doesn't hurt this morning, and what can I do this morning. But that's the thing I'm really concerned about is our future. Businesses opened up that they went into, and they can make more money and not work so hard.
Right.
And I guess that's the American ethic, make as much as you can and work as least as possible. But I'm starting to get that way myself, honestly. But that's not the way most farmers work.
Right.
You work because there's a job to be done whether you make anything or not. I mean, them cows got to get milked 7 days a week. Somebody's got to milk them.
Right. To your point earlier, what you were saying is that farmers want to be out here in the field doing the work. They don't want to have to worry about the markets. They don't want to have to worry about the prices, all the government regulations, and that's in part what we're doing here at Farm Bureau, is that we want to be that voice for you guys. So
yeah, we just want to do what we want to do and not hurt nobody, environment or people or animals or anything, and just make a living. Not asking to be a millionaire, just get by just like everybody else.
Awesome. Chase's Produce here in Davidsonville, Maryland, just a few minutes away from the Maryland Farm Bureau office. Bob Chase, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Farmers and ranchers could face higher estate taxes if Congress fails to act before the end of the year. American Farm Bureau's Chad Smith has the story.
The 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act contains provisions that are set to end in 2025, many of which are beneficial to farmers and ranchers. Without congressional action, the estate tax exemption will drop to pre-2017 levels. Samantha Ayub, an associate economist with the American Farm Bureau Federation, explains the state of play.
The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act doubled the estate tax exemption. So it went from anyone with a net worth greater than $5.5 million in permanent statute had to pay an estate tax to, during TCJA years, it was $11 million indexed for inflation. If Congress does not renew that provision, it would automatically revert to only $5.5 million indexed for inflation starting in 2026.
She says farm and ranch families are already going through a difficult time, and cutting the estate tax exemption would only make it worse.
Families are already going through a very difficult time when they lose a loved one and are passing the farm on. And so this adds an additional burden of trying to come up with up to 40% of your farm's value to pay to the IRS. Most of farm assets come from non-liquid assets, mainly land. So as land becomes more valuable, even when farms are facing losses, they're now being pushed above that exemption level due to rising land values.
Without additional changes to permanent tax law, farmers and ranchers are at risk.
If Congress continued to at least raise the exemption level, that in permanency at the very least gets away farms having to plan for the reversal back to $5.5 million. It's really that uncertainty that comes down at the end of the day.
Learn more on the market intel page at fb.org. Chad Smith, Washington.
With that, please give us a rating and review. And if you learned something today, please share this podcast with your friends. Old Line Farmer Radio is a production of Maryland Farm Bureau. Produced by Jeb Burchick. Contributions this week from Kara Hutchison and Chad Smith. Introduction by Hollis Zimmerman. Thank you for listening, and we will catch you next time on Old Line Farmer Radio.